Okay, so define community organization and discuss how it differs from other forms of social activism such as advocacy or social service work. Community organization is about bringing people together to address shared problems, build strong relationships, and work as a group to create social, economic, or political change. It focuses on uniting individuals, usually from the same neighborhood, school, or workplace, so they can identify the issues they care about, brainstorm solutions, and take collective action to improve their lives and communities. The main goal of community organization is to build long lasting power within a group so that people are able to keep fighting for change even after a specific campaign is over. Though this process Through this process, people not only gain confidence and leadership skills, but they also learn how to work together to stand up for their needs. Community organization is all about making sure that the people directly affected by problems are the ones leading the effort to fix them, which makes it a powerful way to create real change from the ground up. Even though community organization is a form of social activism, it's very different from those like advocacy or social service work. One of the biggest differences is um, who leads the work. In community organization, the people affected by the issue are the ones in charge of making decisions, while advocacy is usually led by experts, lawyers, or organizations that speak on behalf of a group. Tying to influence lawmakers or public opinion, advocacy focuses more on changing specific policies or laws, while community organization is about building people power to make broader, long term changes. Social service work is also different because it focuses on helping individuals and families meet immediate needs like finding food, housing, or healthcare. While social services are really important, they usually deal with short term problems and don't always address the bigger systems that create those problems in the first place. Another way to look at the difference between these approaches is to think about their goals and how long they take to create change. Community organizing is focused on building collective power for long-term systemic change, which often takes years of relationship building, planning, and action. Advocacy usually works towards changing specific laws or policies, so it may take a medium to long-term approach depending on like how complicated the issue is. And social services are about helping people right now, providing quick support for things like food or homelessness. All three approaches are important, but what makes community organizing stand out is that it gives everyday people the tools and support to fight for themselves instead of like relying on outsiders to speak for them. And a good real life example of community organizing is when tenants in New York City like come together to fight for better housing conditions. In a lot of neighborhoods, people face like conditions like broken heat, mold, or like landlords raising rent unfairly. And instead of waiting for someone else to step in, tenants form groups or associations where they can meet and talk about what's going on, share resources, and plan actions like protests or reaching out to the city officials. By organizing together, they're able to support each other, learn how to speak up for their rights, and push for real change. That makes their buildings safer and more affordable. Okay, and then discuss the importance of the grassroots movement and community organizing, and what are the advantages and challenges from the bottom up approach. Grassroots movements are community driven efforts that start from the ground up, led by everyday people who are directly impacted by certain issues. Unlike movements led by big organizations or government officials, grassroots organizing focuses on giving local people the power to speak up and create change for themselves. These movements are a huge part of community organizing because they bring people together, build strong connections, and give individuals a chance to take action on issues that matter to them. Grassroots movements also help people learn important leadership and advocacy skills, and because they come from within the community, their solutions are often more personal and effective. By working collectively, members of these movements can raise awareness, shift public conversations, and push for real change that like affect their daily lives. Even though grassroots organizing can be very effective, it also comes with challenges since most grassroots groups don't have a lot of money, resources, or like outside support. It can be hard to keep things going in the long run. It can also be difficult to stay organized without clear leadership, and people involved might start to feel overwhelmed or burned out by doing so much work without enough help. Sometimes members of the group may disagree on what steps to take, which can slow things down. But even with these obstacles, grassroots movements are still one of the strongest ways for people to create real lasting change because they give communities a voice and the power to fight for what they believe in. When people come together around a shared cause, and keep pushing forward even when it's hard. They have the ability to make a real difference. And a real life example for this is pretty easy. Living in Michigan, it is the grassroots movement and the fight for clean water in Flint. When people in community realized their water was contaminated and making them sick, they didn't want to wait for the government to fix it. Instead, regular residents started speaking out, organizing protests, and holding meetings to demand safe drinking water. They also used social media to gain more attention on the issue. Even though they didn't have a lot of money or resources, they kept pushing until people all over the country started paying attention and the government was forced to step in. This shows how powerful it can be when everyday people come together to fight for something that directly affects their life. And what are the limits of community organizing? Are there issues or situations where organizing alone is insufficient to create lasting change? So even though community organizing can be a really effective way to create change, it definitely has some limits. One of the biggest challenges is that organizing takes a lot of time, effort, and commitment, which can be tough for people who are already dealing with things like working long hours, taking care of family, or struggling to pay bills. A lot of the time, grassroots movements groups don't have much money or outside support, so it's hard to keep things going in the long run. Even if people care about an issue, they might not always have the time or energy to stay involved, especially when like everyday life gets in the way. Another problem with community organizing is that some issues are just too big to solve through local efforts alone. For example, problems like climate change, healthcare, or immigration laws are so large and complicated that they usually require action from the government or big organizations. Community organizing can help raise awareness and put pressure on people in power, but sometimes that isn't enough to actually like make the changes that are needed. For those bigger issues, organizing is still really important, but it often has to be combined with other efforts like working with lawmakers or national movements to really make a difference. Also, community organizing can sometimes run into problems within the group itself. People might have different opinions on how to solve the issue or what steps to take, and that can slow things down or cause arguments. If there isn't strong leadership or a clear goal, the group can lose focus or even fall apart. So, while community organizing is a great way to bring people together and fight for change, it doesn't always work on its own. Usually, it's most effective when it's combined with other strategies like advocacy, policy changes, and support from bigger organizations. A good real life example of this is the fight for the $15 movement, where fast food workers have organized protests and strikes to demand higher wages. Even though their organizing got a lot of attention, they still needed help from unions and lawmakers to actually get laws passed to raise the minimum wage. This shows that while community organizing is super important to start change, sometimes it takes support from bigger organizations or the government to really make it happen.